What if I told you that improving by just 1% each day would make you 37 times better in 1 year? Not twice as good, not 10 times better. 37 times. That's not motivational nonsense. That's compound mathematics, and it's the exact principle that separates people who achieve extraordinary results from those who stay stuck despite working just as hard. Here's the reality. We've been lied to about success. We're told we need massive action, complete life overhauls, or some kind of magical breakthrough moment. But the data tells a completely different story. A study from Duke University found that 40% of our daily actions aren't actual decisions, they're habits. That means nearly half of what you do today, you'll do tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. The billionaires, the top performers, the people dominating their industries, they're not necessarily smarter or more talented. They've simply mastered something most people ignore: the compounding effect of tiny, consistent improvements. In the next 20 minutes, you're going to learn exactly how to engineer your own transformation using the 1% principle. We'll break down the neuroscience, the real-world financial impact, and the specific strategies that turn small habits into life-changing results. This isn't theory. This is a proven framework that's generated millions in revenue for entrepreneurs, transformed the performance of Fortune 500 companies, and it'll work for you too. Let's get into it. Let's start with the numbers, because this is where most people's brains actually break. If you get 1% better every single day for 1 year, you don't improve by 365%. You improve by 3,778%. Here's the formula. 1.01 to the power of 365 equals 37.78. But here's the terrifying flip side. If you get 1% worse each day, you decline to nearly zero. 0.99 to the power of 365 equals 0.03. You don't just stay the same, you completely fall apart. This is why the margin between success and failure is razor thin. It's not about giant leaps, it's about which direction you're compounding. Let me give you a concrete example from the business world. In 2003, a mid-level executive at a struggling retail company started implementing tiny daily improvements across every department. Not revolutionary changes, small tweaks, better email subject lines, 5-minute daily team huddles, clearer inventory labels. Within 8 years, that company, Target, increased its revenue by over $40 billion. Was it just those small changes? Of course not, but the culture of continuous 1% improvement became their operating system. Compare that to their competitors who waited for the big idea or the perfect strategy. Most of them don't exist anymore. Now, let's bring this to your income. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, the average American earns about $60,000 per year. If you improved your skills, productivity, or value by just 1% each day through deliberate practice and better habits, within 1 year, you're not looking at a small raise. You're looking at positioning yourself in an entirely different income bracket. That's the difference between a $5,000 raise and a $30,000 plus increase in earning potential. The hedge fund managers, the top software engineers, the successful entrepreneurs, they're not working 37 times harder than you. They've compounded their skills 37 times through consistent, tiny improvements. This is the leverage most people never discover. Let's talk about what's happening inside your brain when you build habit, because understanding this will change how you approach everything. Your brain has about 86 billion neurons. Every time you repeat an action, you strengthen the neural pathway associated with that behavior. Neuroscientists call this Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Think of it like walking through a forest. The first time, you're pushing through branches, stumbling over roots. The 10th time, there's a faint trail. The 100th time, there's a clear path you could walk blindfolded. That's what happens in your brain. Repetition doesn't just make things easier, it makes them automatic. The habit loop discovery. MIT researchers discovered something fascinating in the 1990s. They found that habits operate on a 3-part loop: cue, routine, reward. A cue triggers your brain to go into automatic mode. The routine is the behavior itself, the reward is what your brain gets from it. Here's where it gets interesting for making money. Once this loop is established, your brain stops fully participating in decision-making. It conserves energy by running the program automatically. This is why successful people seem to effortlessly do things that would exhaust normal people. Their brains aren't working harder, they're working smarter by automating the right behaviors. The 2-minute rule. Behavioral psychology research from Stanford shows that the biggest barrier to habit formation isn't motivation, it's friction. The solution? Make your new habit so easy it takes less than 2 minutes to start. Want to work out every day? Don't commit to an hour at the gym. Commit to putting on your workout shoes. That's it. Want to read more? Don't commit to a chapter. Commit to reading 1 page. Sounds almost stupid, right? But here's what happens. Once you've put on the shoes, you'll probably work out. Once you've read 1 page, you'll probably read 10. A study tracking over 10,000 participants found that people who used this minimum viable action approach had an 87% higher success rate in maintaining new habits compared to those who set ambitious targets. Small commitments remove the psychological resistance that kills most people's progress. You've probably heard about the latte factor, the idea that skipping your daily $5 coffee will make you rich. Most people dismiss this as outdated boomer advice, but they're missing the actual lesson. It's not about the coffee, it's about the compound effect of daily financial decisions. Let's run the real numbers with updated 2024 data. If you save just $10 per day, not through deprivation, but through optimized decisions like meal prepping instead of DoorDash or using cashback apps strategically, that's $3,650 per year.
Invested in an S&P 500 index fund with an average 10% annual return, that becomes 5 years, $24,600, 10 years, $65,000, 20 years, $230,000, 30 years, $680,000. From $10 a day. That's not even a real sacrifice, that's just being slightly more intentional. Now let's talk about time, because time is the ultimate non-renewable resource. If you waste 30 minutes a day scrolling social media mindlessly, that's 182 hours per year. That's over 4 full work weeks of productivity you're burning. Flip that around, if you invest just 30 minutes daily into a high-value skill, coding, video editing, copywriting, data analysis, within 1 year you've accumulated 182 hours of deliberate practice. Malcolm Gladwell popularized the 10,000-hour rule, but more recent research from Anders Ericsson shows that quality beats quantity. Focused practice of just 1 to 2 hours daily in a valuable skill will outperform unfocused effort of 8+ hours. Here's the business reality. According to LinkedIn's 2024 workforce report, professionals who dedicate 30 minutes daily to skill development earn on average 27% more than their peers within 3 years. That's not motivational fluff. That's measurable ROI on a tiny habit. Let's talk about wealthy people's secret weapon: automated systems. The average millionaire, according to Thomas J. Stanley's research, spends significant time creating systems that handle repetitive decisions automatically. They automate investment contributions, set it and forget it, bill payments, no late fees, better credit, health decisions, meal prep on Sundays, gym bag ready, learning, podcasts during commute, audiobooks while exercising. Each automation removes decision fatigue and ensures the 1% improvement happens whether you feel like it or not. Warren Buffett famously said, "The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. They say no by automating the yes to what matters." Every automated positive habit is a 1% improvement that costs 0 willpower to maintain. Here's where most people fail with habits. They focus on outcomes instead of identity. Outcome-based, I want to lose 20 pounds. Identity-based, I'm a healthy person. Outcome-based, I want to make 6 figures. Identity-based, I'm someone who continuously increases their value. The difference seems subtle, but it's massive.
When your habits are tied to outcomes, your motivation dies the moment you hit an obstacle or don't see immediate results. But when your habits are tied to identity, every action becomes a vote for the type of person you want to become. Psychologist James Clear, who literally wrote the book on Atomic Habits, explains it this way: every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Going to the gym once doesn't make you fit, but it is a vote for being an athletic person. Writing 200 words doesn't make you an author, but it's a vote for being a writer. Here's the powerful part: your identity shapes your habits, but your habits also shape your identity. A Stanford study on behavior change found that people who adopted small, identity-consistent habits were 300% more likely to maintain those behaviors long-term compared to those focused only on results. For example, smokers who successfully quit weren't the ones who tried to stop smoking. They were the ones who started saying, "I'm not a smoker." Investors who build wealth don't just try to save money, they identify as someone who makes their money work for them. The language matters because your brain uses your self-concept as a filter for decision-making. So how do you actually shift your identity? Simple. Use the 1% rule on your self-concept. If you want to become a confident public speaker, give yourself one opportunity per week to speak in front of others. After 10 times, you'll have more speaking experience than 90% of people. If you want to become financially savvy, consume one piece of financial education content daily. In 3 months, you'll know more than most Americans about managing money. Each small action doesn't just build the skill, it reinforces the identity. And once the identity is established, the habits become effortless. You become what you repeatedly do. Choose wisely. So far, we've talked about building good habits, but what about breaking bad ones? This is where the 1% method gets really interesting. Instead of trying to quit cold turkey, which has a 95% failure rate according to addiction research, you reduce the bad habit by 1% and replace it with something slightly better. Spending 3 hours on social media? Don't try to quit entirely. Reduce it to 2 hours and 50 minutes. Use those 10 minutes for something productive. Next week, reduce it by another 1%. In 100 days, you've eliminated the habit entirely without the psychological warfare of deprivation. Neuroscience shows you can't actually delete a habit, you can only replace it. Remember the habit loop? Cue, routine, reward. The cue and reward usually stay the same, you change the routine. Example, let's say you stress eat every day at 3 p.m. Cue, afternoon stress, reward, comfort. Don't fight the cue, replace the routine. Instead of chips, do 10 push-ups or take a 5-minute walk. You still get the mental break, reward, but the behavior is now productive. A University of Michigan study found that replacement strategies are 4 times more effective than willpower-based elimination. The inverse of making good habits easy is making bad habits difficult. If you waste too much time on your phone, delete the apps and only access them through a browser. That extra friction, typing in a URL, logging in, reduces usage by an average of 60% according to app usage studies.
If you overspend on Amazon, remove your saved payment info. The 90 seconds it takes to enter your card details gives your prefrontal cortex time to engage and ask, do I actually need this? These aren't life-changing interventions, they're 1% increases in friction, but they're devastatingly effective. The environment shapes behavior more than motivation ever will. There's an old business axiom, what gets measured gets managed. Turns out it's neurologically true. A Harvard study on habit tracking found that people who visually tracked their habits, even with something as simple as an X on a calendar, were 42% more likely to maintain the behavior. Why? Because tracking creates 2 powerful psychological effects. 1, visual progress. Seeing a chain of X's triggers a dopamine response, the same reward chemical that reinforces the habit loop. 2, loss aversion. Once you have a streak going, you don't want to break it. Behavioral economics shows people are 2x more motivated to avoid losing something than to gain something new. Jerry Seinfeld famously used this method to become one of the most successful comedians in history. His goal? Write jokes every single day. His method? A big wall calendar and a red marker. Every day he wrote jokes, he put a big red X. After a few days, he had a chain. His only job was don't break the chain. That simple system helped him write material that generated hundreds of millions of dollars in career earnings. You can do the same thing with any habit: workout streak, reading streak, learning streak, sales call streak. The streak becomes the game, and humans love games. Here's where the money multiplier comes in. When you add external accountability, success rates skyrocket. The American Society of Training and Development found having an idea or goal, 10% likely to complete. Consciously deciding to do it, 25%. Deciding when to do it, 40%. Planning how to do it, 50%. Committing to someone else, 65%. Having a specific accountability appointment, 95%. This is why masterminds work, why business coaches are worth their fees, why workout partners are effective. Social pressure used strategically is one of the highest ROI tools for behavior change. And in 2024, you can automate this. Apps like Beeminder literally charge your credit card if you don't hit your targets. Stick K lets you commit money to a charity you hate if you fail. Sounds extreme? Maybe, but when people have real financial skin in the game, completion rates exceed 85%. You can't lie to a tracking system, and that honesty creates results. Everything we've talked about applies to your career and business at scale. Google famously implements 1% time, where employees spend a fraction of their workweek on experimental projects. That tiny investment has generated billions through products like Gmail and Google Maps. Amazon's Jeff Bezos built the entire company on the principle of high-velocity decision-making, making tons of small, reversible decisions quickly rather than waiting for perfect information. The businesses that dominate their industries aren't the ones making perfect decisions. They're the ones making 1% better decisions consistently and iterating faster than competitors. And here's the 2024 reality you need to understand. AI tools are force multipliers for the 1% principle. If you spend 15 minutes daily learning to prompt ChatGPT, Claude, or Midjourney effectively, you're building a skill that will 10x your productivity within months. AI doesn't replace the 1% principle, it accelerates it. The person who gets 1% better at using AI daily will compound their advantage exponentially, while others are still debating whether it's real work. According to McKinsey's 2024 report, workers who actively integrate AI into daily workflows are seeing productivity gains of 30 to 60% within 6 months. That's not future speculation, that's happening right now. The job market is changing faster than ever. The World Economic Forum predicts that 44% of worker skills will be disrupted by 2027. The people who survive and thrive won't be those with the most degrees or experience, they'll be the ones with the best learning habits, the 1% daily improvement mindset that makes them adaptable. Learn something new every day, build something small every week, share your knowledge every month. Those 3 habits alone will put you in the top 5% of professionals in any field within 2 years. The future belongs to the people who compound learning faster than change happens. So let's bring this full circle. You are the sum of your habits, not your intentions, not your plans, your actual daily behaviors. The 1% principle isn't sexy. It won't get you featured in a viral success story next week, but it will fundamentally transform your life if you stick with it. Remember the math. 1% better every day equals 37 times improvement in a year. That's not motivation, that's mathematics. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to overhaul your entire life tonight. You don't need a New Year's resolution or a fresh start Monday. You just need to identify one tiny habit you can improve by 1% today. Maybe it's drinking 1 extra glass of water, reading 5 pages instead of scrolling, saving $5 from today's budget, sending 1 more email to a potential client, doing 5 push-ups before your shower. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you do it. And then you do it again tomorrow and the day after. Because small changes don't seem to matter much in the moment, but compound them over months and years, they matter more than almost anything else. The question isn't whether the 1% principle works. The question is, will you trust the process long enough to see it work for you? Your future self, the one earning more, doing more, being more, is built by the decisions you make in the next 24 hours. Make them count.
If this video shifted your perspective on how success actually works, do me a favor, hit that like button. It tells YouTube to share this with more people who need to hear it. Drop a comment and tell me, what's the 1% habit you're starting today? I read every single one, and I'm genuinely curious what you're going to choose. Thanks for watching. Now go compound some improvements.